Welcome. My name is Sandra Tice and I am a UBC Master of Technology student. And this video is Making Our Mark, the Evolution of Pen and Paper Through Time.
The history of ancient writing technologies reveals a desire by humans to express themselves, to leave a mark or legacy about the past, and to communicate vital information as needed. Likely the first writing implement was a human finger dipped in plant juice or blood. Or perhaps it was a stick drawn through mud or sand. Humans were drawing pictures long before true writing developed. It's impossible to know for certain which ancient civilization, approximately 5,000 to 8,000 years ago, Mesopotamia, China, or Egypt, began to realize that permanent records could be etched, stamped, or painted onto existing materials. In ancient Mesopotamia's fertile crescent of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, the abundance of clay and the development of a refined stylus with a wedge-shaped tip that made somewhat uniform triangular impressions led to cuneiform's development. Although simple, this crude technology was significant as it was the original stylus that allowed for a form of standardized communication and record-keeping. The first script or true writing that we know of was developed among the Sumerians in Mesopotamia only around the year 3500 BC. Their complex language had 600 symbols and was recorded by scribes, highly respected writing specialists, the record keepers of their time. Nearly 4,000 years ago, those scribes were already recording stories on clay. As early as 3000 BC, the use of a reed plant known as papyrus developed along the Nile River. It was a lighter and more portable writing medium than clay. Fashioned from these river plants, split, hammered, and layered together, papyrus was so popular that Egyptians soon began producing papyrus scrolls for the Greeks and Romans as an easily transportable document medium. Papyrus, sadly, was not a durable material, and its source plant, the papyrus reed, was limited to growing primarily within Egypt. These two disadvantages likely spurred the Greeks and Romans to make greater use of another readily available material made from sheepskin. This was known as parchment. Parchment became the preferred medium of both ancient and medieval worlds. Another advantage of parchment was that it was not only more durable than papyrus, but both sides of it could be used, and it could also be reused. By cutting parchment into sheets and binding them between wooden covers, they had created an early form of the book, also known as a codex. Meanwhile, in ancient China, early origins of paper had already appeared, typically made from bamboo and from other such diverse materials including bamboo, silk, and ivory. Equally important as paper was the ink used for mark making on the paper. Permanent inks were manufactured from soot, lamp oil, musk, and gelatin made from donkey skin, or from berries or other plants. The first papers in China were made from hemp, bark, and used fish nets. Recent archaeological finds reveal that paper making was invented in the 1st century BC by an anonymous Chinese peasant who produced paper from plant fiber and rags. A story persists that in 105 BC or 2nd century BC, Sai Lun, a high-ranking eunuch in the Han imperial court, was the first to document the paper-making process. He recorded that for the first time in history, plant and animal fibers, mulberry or bamboo, could be separated to produce the newest writing medium, paper. Paper had in fact been made in China for at least 200 years before this date. As legend tells, women used to clean their clothes on stones in the river. As fibers released downriver from the friction of clothing upon rocks, a surface sheet would form downriver, and as it was lifted and dried, it produced a surface suitable as a substitute for silk fabric and bamboo strips used previously as a base for pictures. Paper had a number of distinct advantages over other materials as it was lighter, thinner, more portable, durable, and relatively easy to produce. The Chinese wanted to keep their paper manufacturing processes secret, and they were successful in doing so for centuries. Eventually, this new paper-making technology spread to Korea and Japan. And by the 6th century, Arabs had obtained paper through the capture of Chinese papermakers. Then Moors transported it to Syria, Egypt, and Morocco. Arab traders brought paper to Europe where manufacturing production began in earnest, in Spain by the 12th century. Arabs had mechanized the preparation of pulp by beating and milling fibrous materials and using water mills. When they conquered parts of Europe, chiefly Spain, they brought this process with them as a cheaper replacement for parchment. In the year 1268, a paper mill was established at Fabriano, Italy. Paper at that time was typically made from rags, usually linen. Since it was difficult to procure rags, which were the main component of papermaking, people sought other materials that were cheaper and more readily available. From the 1500s to nearly the 1800s, they tried using many other composition materials including agave, straw, grass, asbestos, seaweed, aloe, plantain, wastepaper, tree bark, and more. The origin of the pen paralleled the developmental path of papermaking. The early versions of the stylus used in Mesopotamia, the Greeks, and the Romans in ancient times was modified to eventually become a device that could hold ink for writing on papyrus or parchment. Reeds could easily be trimmed to make varying line widths combined with plant-based inks or soot. But reeds tended to wear out quickly. Scribes began using other materials to fashion early pens, using such things as animal horns and sometimes even metal. A copper nib was found in the ruins of Pompeii, showing that metal nibs were used as early as the year 79. Evidence has also been found which links the use of bird feathers or quills, which hold ink. This was found in approximately 500 BC. The quill, primarily made from geese feathers at that time, was used as the pen of choice for nearly 1,000 years. Pens might be made of cane, reed, bird quill, or metal. A section of reed or cane was easy to work into a pen. First, the pith would be removed, next the end would be carved to a point or an angle, and finally a slit would be cut into the tip. The hollow created by removing the pith held the ink, which flowed through the slit to the tip of the pen. A quill pen was made in the same way, simply using a feather from a crow, a peacock, an eagle, or other bird, instead of the reed. Often the feathers were removed from the quill, leaving just the hollow stick-like portion to serve as the pen. A quill pen was lighter and more flexible than a reed or cane pen. The earliest fragments of a metal pen date back to the 13th century BC. Both Egyptians and Romans are known to have used metal pens, some of which were shaped to imitate bird feathers. Medieval monks used fine pointed metal pens to trace the lines on parchment. In the later Middle Ages, monks dragged metal pens with multiple points across a sheet of vellum to create the musical staff on which they inked the square-shaped notes. The metal pen was durable and precise, especially for creating thin lines. However, the quill and reed could easily be recut to suit the individual's preference. A penknife was an essential tool for the fussy scribe. Papyrus, parchment, paper, reed, quill, pen. All these represent technologies of writing before mechanization. More than any other single invention, writing has transformed human consciousness. Writing with pen and paper is no more natural, no less technological than writing on a computer screen. All of these technological innovations have helped humankind communicate their ideas and have led to an increased form of literacy throughout the ages.